It's open. The other thing is that as people shared the knowledge in the open space, then, in steps, we begin to create a collective articulation, not only of the problems, but also the solutions. We begin to build up on that. And so we have built up on the collective articulation from the first social forum in 2007 to the second social forum in 2010 in Detroit, because both were successful. It wasn't like a one-time deal and people liked it the first time in Atlanta and never came back. Whatever the experience in Atlanta, Detroit was even bigger. So is that movement growing or shrinking? Is it real or just imagined? So we need to begin to draw those assumptions as real, shared knowledge. And the third is that as to the level of groups working together in the workshops that they present, or plenaries, or panels, well, we saw that you could get to a certain level of unity, but we needed action at the social forum. That was the other thing that people said, well, it's good that we come, deliberate, we converge, we deliberate, we articulate, but how do we come together? How do we create integration? How do we get the movements to integrate? So that's where the Social Movements Assembly got invented in the World Social Forum as a way for the social movement to begin to build the space to come together and to put the problems and the proposed actions together, which was really about working together, which was really about integration. So a lot of movement groups that are farm worker groups, between the first social forum, World Social Forum, and the one in the car, you have Via Campesina having developed, which is in Africa and Asia and Latin America and the Caribbean. That is a huge movement that has come together, when we know that in the U.S., from the experience of the farm workers, it was very difficult for farm worker groups to come together or to work together. So that is part of that process of integration. Now, when we went from the first social forum that we implemented, we had the Southeast Social Forum in Durham in 2006, because at that time people were asking and saying, we're not sure that we can organize a social forum in the U.S. This is the U.S. This is the beast, the monster, this, everything. And there was a lot of questions, so the folks from here went ahead and said, well, let's organize a regional social forum in Southeast and prove that it would work. And so, boom, there it went, and the proof came back. Then we had the Border Social Forum, and we had a People's Movement Assembly at the now learning from Durham. We implemented the assembly process at Ciudad Juárez, Chihuahua, where we had the Border Social Forum. And so that made it not only U.S., but also Mexico, made it international. So we brought that experience to Atlanta, and with all the difficulties we started planning for a PMA of 1 day, in the last day of the first U.S. Social Forum, and we ended up with 2 hours. So there was a big battle with the National Planning Committee about the purpose and utility of a People's Movement Assembly, and people were up to the last day saying, we have concerns about this thing called PMA, because what is it? And we kept explaining and explaining, but until you do it, sometimes all the explaining goes out the window. And so we did it with all the haphazards that happened there and all the conflict, but it was real, it was raw, and it was real. So we learned from that. When we went to Detroit, we said we broke new ground. Not only here in the U.S., but even with the World Social Forum, and with the Social Forum of the Americas, and the European Social Forum, and all of the social forums, because we were the first ones to implement a process of People's Movement Assemblies before the Social Forum, during the Social Forum, and now this is the meeting of the first formal meeting of the after the Social Forum PMA plan. So there's been a before, during, and after, which had never been tried before. So the CAR Forum took part of our ideas, part of our methodology, and they implemented a People's Movement Assembly, or Social Movements Assembly as it's called. But they actually organized also PMAs during the Social Forum, leading up to a collective assembly of all the different thematic People's Movement Assemblies that took place there. So I don't know how many happened, and then it rolled into the big one. And that came out from our contribution to the Social Forum process. So we're breaking new ground, not only in the U.S., but we're breaking new ground globally. So that also says that how much integration has happened between the U.S. social movements via the Social Forum process and the Global South and global social movements as it happened in the CAR. How much connection have we made when they actually took part of our work and our model and integrated it into their work, and we've integrated into the World Social Forum process. So there's been a number of bridges that have been built in those last 10 years. Very important bridges. And so we're not just the U.S. social movement now, we're integrated into the world social movement. There's still a lot to be done, a lot to teach the South, because sometimes they don't believe that there's social movements in the U.S. And so now what we've gone ahead to the next step is, when we did the plan for Detroit, it was based on the fact that we needed to have a PMA process that was really about having the movements come together, converge, collectively articulate the problems and solutions to the problems, and integrate into the work more closely. And that happened especially in the 54 PMAs that took place during the Social Forum. So a lot of those PMAs, believe it or not, to one degree or another, today are still communicating, are still working after the Social Forum. And some are not, but they're still active, but not necessarily engaged right now. But this meeting and tomorrow's meeting is about engaging them into that process. What we came up with was that the facilitation and the methodology for the PMA was really sort of the example of a jet. Move on its own force, on its own ideas, on its own work. And so really the whole idea of the PMA was how to give oxygen to the ideas. As the oxygen goes in the jet propulses forward. But you don't push it, you don't pull it, no? And so the whole idea was that we really need the open space where we really get deep into the ideas and the theory and practice of the organizing work, because if I come in with a proposal and I say that, we all have to do this, and we put a proposal, there'll be a majority of people or a group of people that will be for the proposal, and there'll be another group that's against or questioning the proposal. So already instead of us jetting forward together, we're already like using energy to debate and try to work out the differences, therefore highlighting more the differences, rather than moving all of our processes forward. So we thought that it was most important to have a kind of facilitation that was really about moving the process forward, collectively. No? So one of the assumptions is that everybody's thinking and everybody's idea and everybody's proposal and everybody's experience in the room needs to go up on the board in order to put everybody's collective thinking together. There are no wrong ideas or right ideas. There's no more radical than other ideas. All of the ideas together, all of the experience together, all of the collective building together is what really moves this jet forward immediately. Before people even realize it, that jet is going. Why? Because, it's the collective thinking and action of everybody in the room. What that does is that it didn't create a new structure. So you didn't, we're not going on structure. It didn't create a new organization because you're not trying to create a new organization. That's been part of the fallacy in the past, is that you have problems, you create a new organization thinking you're going to resolve those issues, and it doesn't. You carry them to the next level. And so this is really about finding solutions, finding alternatives to the system. So the PMA that we're looking at is what impact are we going to have in 2011 and 2012 in this same revolution coming out of 2008. How is that going to impact? And how is the facilitation process, which is at the heart of the methodology of the PMA, that makes it work as a PMA, that makes it successful to create that convergence, to create that collective articulation of the problem and solution, and to integrate the movement, is really this open space, kind of like the social forum, but now at the People's Movement Assembly for action. Not for just deliberation, but for action. No? And that's that's where we decided, in terms of the social forum process in the U.S., that was most important for us to put our energy in, because we thought that would make the biggest difference, and that it was not about just getting a rank position within the National Planning Committee, or getting on some plenary, at the social forum, or getting a badge saying, oh, you're a great national leader. For us, it was really about, this is an opportunity not to be lost. Because we've lost other opportunities, there's an opportunity not to be lost, because there's a chance and a possibility really to make this systemic social change real in this coming years. And we see 2011 and 2012 as critical in terms of not just the presidential elections, because there's presidential elections here in Mexico, the governor in Puerto Rico has a big revolution in Puerto Rico right now. It's all over the place. And all we're going to do is capture that whole spirit of the revolution in the next 2 years in as many people's assemblies as we can organize. And we can outdo the Tea Party, those people that have nothing on us. Nothing on us.
Well, a couple $1 million, but I get your point.
But so that's the thinking that I wanted to share, the shared knowledge, because to us we think that getting into this new process, or what we're going to be doing, is super important. And how do we regroup on all the PMAs that happened at the U.S. Social Forum, and how do we reconstruct them and organize them and move forward. So really that's my view. Thank you.